All right, so everybody, welcome to today's session. I am Wayne Dehn. If those of you who don't know me, those of you just watching us for the first time, either on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook group, I've been in sales for since the 90s and actually started a sales training company in 2007. This is one of the introductions that I do to having a systematic approach to selling. So at the end of this session, you'll have a chance to have a conversation with me, go any further if you want. But today's session is designed to talk about why one should have a selling system. And there's a good reason. Quite frankly, it's this reason because buyers have a system. You know, when we as salespeople, I don't care if those of you who are watching are really professionally trained salesperson, whether you're a small business owner, you don't think that you sell. If you're the type of person who is a lawyer, a doctor, a chiropractor, a dentist, who think they have a product, but they don't realize that they still have to sell. I need to start you with my definition of sales. My definition of sales is just influencing someone to a mutually beneficial decision, one that leaves them, the prospect, in better condition than when you found them, and one that helps you and your company go to the bank. Sales isn't about tricking, manipulating, conning, coercing to get somebody to buy something they don't need or want. True salespeople ask a lot of questions and offer your product to solve a problem that the client has. But buyers are afraid of salespeople because there's always been some salesperson that's tried to trick, manipulate, and buyers are always on their guard at the beginning. They haven't built trust with you yet. They haven't looked at you as a trusted advisor. So at the beginning, buyers have a systematic approach that they go into. You know, there's long established methods for a buyer to get free information from salespeople. Buyers are really great at committing to nothing, trying to turn you into free consultant, if you will. And buyers are better at their system than salespeople are traditionally because they've worked at it more often. And some of you that are watching me right now might think, oh, no, I don't have a system. But if you imagine yourself, if you're going to go to buy a car today and you have $20,000 in your pocket, don't you think about, hey, a game plan? I'm going to start thinking about how I'm going to go after this, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to handle it. Buyers have a system, and great salespeople have a systematic approach to counter the buyer system. That's why it's important to have a system so that you can counteract what the buyers are going to try to do to you. But here's how I want you to start today. If you have a piece of paper, if you're starting to take notes, what I'd like you to do is just write down this. I run a successful business, territory, whatever, but I could be more successful if I could just, how would you answer that question? And quite frankly, over the years that I've been training, there are 36 answers I've seen to that question. We could be more successful if I could see more people, close more deals, have more time. All that comes into. But you know, what it is it for you personally? I could be more successful if I could just write that down, whatever that problem challenge that you seek is. And then the last year, what do you think this problem has cost you that you haven't been able to see enough people, close enough sales, have enough time, whatever you answered that question as to whatever the challenge or issue it is. What do you think that's cost you in lost revenue, in lost profit, in extra money going out of your business as opposed to coming in? And then in your mind, is that a little or a lot? Is that a lot? Whatever amount of money you put down on there, is that a little or is that a lot in your mind that this problem is costing you 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or it's only costing you $500 and it's not a big deal? So is that a little or is a lot? So write that down. Now, what I want you to do at the bottom of the paper that you have in front of you, just over in the left hand, write yes, in the middle, no, and over on the other side, TIO. And let me explain what that is for you for a second. Well, let's just cross out TIO right now because TIO stands for I'd like to think it over. Here's what's going to happen. When we get done with this session today, I'm going to ask you if you'd like to go any further and have a conversation with me. I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm just asking, do you want to have a cup of coffee to have a conversation about if there's anything I can do in these areas here that you're looking at, all right, about what I can do to help you with whatever the challenge or issue right down. If I can help you as far as what it's going to cost to try and fix this problem because it's cost you so much money already. So what I really want to think is this. If you say yes, and you think we should have a further conversation, just email me at wayne@3dSalesTraining.com. Just send me your name, information. All right. If you say no, if you circle no, we get done in the next 40 some minutes or whatever it takes me to finish this session. If it's a no, just exit my Facebook group, just get out of my group, email me at 3dtraining at Gmail, and I'll remove you from your list and I won't bother you. I'm okay with a no if there's not a fit. I'm not for everybody. I get that. But I don't want you to feel like you have to say, well, I'd like to think it over, because think it over is a slow no. I'm not asking you today to make a commitment to go further with my sales training. I'm asking only yes, and that you saw enough out of today's session, gave you enough information, some tidbits that you'd like to go further as far as having a conversation with me. And again, if it's a no, I'll take you off the list. I'll try not to bother you again. All right. But please don't do the TIO. I'd like to think it over. It's kind of like, my wife and I, the joke is this, my wife and I have been married 86 years. Well, 43 happily for me and 43 that she's put up with me. So together 86 years. But when I asked her to marry me, if I got down on one knee and I looked up and I go, hey, Lori, will you marry me? If she had said, I'd like to think it over, that would have been a no, really. So a TIO is really a polite or a slow no. Don't feel you have to do it. When we get done, a yes or no is okay with me. Okay. But to get going on far, why have a system? Those of you that have been with me, or those of you that have never heard about me before, I'm a storyteller as far as in my sales philosophy. I believe we remember stories more than we do statistics. So I want to start with a story about skydiving. When I was young, I decided I was going to try and jump out of an airplane, but not back then. They didn't do the tandem where you do now. You actually did it individually. You did where you were going in a canopy chute. But so when I went to the airport to sign up to go sign up for skydiving, they said, well, first of all, you have to go to jump school to learn our system. And it was a Saturday afternoon that they said that we'd be jumping about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I had to report there at 8 o'clock and go through hours of jump school training to learn their system. And in the picture you're looking at right here, what the young lady is doing is she's releasing the harness that she's in. They put you up on a ladder, a couple of feet off the ground, and what they teach you is how to get out of the harness, because what they teach you is things like, well, if the main chute doesn't open, before you open the emergency chute, we want you to release the other chute so that the two chutes don't get tangled up together. Or another thing that they're doing is if you're going to land in water, what they want you to do is release the chute and actually fall into the water about 10 to 12 feet before you get to the water so that you don't get tied up into your parachute. So she's learning how to release herself out of the whole harness that she's in so she can jump into the water, and then they teach you to swim out about 20 feet so you don't get tangled and drowned in the chute. They teach you things like, okay, we're going to give you an altimeter they put it on your wrist. And what the altimeter does is exactly tells you how high you are. And it says, okay, at 1,800 feet, no matter what, make sure you pull your ripcord. When we jumped the first time we're going, it was called static line. It's kind of like the old World War II movies where you see the guys jumping out of the airplanes and they clip up onto a wire above the door and they jump out and it automatically pulls their chute open. And that's what's going to happen in the training program that I went through. But they also said, but if your main chute doesn't open, yes, we want you to cut it away, cut the other one away so you don't get tangled. But if you can't get it cut away at 1,800 feet, you're falling at 120 miles an hour. You don't have any other time. At this time, go ahead and pull the emergency chute. So they work on this. They drill this into your head that at 1,800 feet, pull your emergency chute so you have time for that second chute to open and catch you so that you can at least come softly to the ground. We work on buddy system because you've got this big parachute. You've got the main chute that is actually on the front of you, and then the emergency chute's on the back. What they want you to do is make sure you don't get caught on the airplane, you don't get stuck anywhere. So they ask you when you get into the plane that a buddy behind you, and everybody check the person in front, make sure that they don't get hooked, make sure that they don't catch anything, and that their chute's fully secured. So we have a buddy system get us through this systematic approach to diving. They teach you how to exit the airplane correctly. The picture you see here is the person getting into their arch. And on the airplane that I was jumping out of, 170, a Cessna 170, had a little hook step outside the door. The door is off the airplane and wing struts. And the idea is you put your left foot on the strut, and then you reach out and you grab one strut and you grab the other strut so that one foot is on the step, two hands are on the strut, and you push yourself into this arch so you don't tumble and roll over. Quite frankly, here's what happened to me. I put my foot on the strut or on the step, and then when I went to reach for the strut, and I fell. Now, one of the things that they teach you is we're going to get you used to counting 1001, 1002, 1003, because even though the first time you're going out of here, we're going to have a static that's automatically going to pull your chute. But by the third jump, we're going to have you getting used to doing some free fall. So you're going to go 1001, 1002, all the way to 10, and then pull your chute. So we want you to start practicing that. So as soon as you fall out of the plane, just go ahead and start counting 1001, 1002. My instructor, all he heard was 1000 because I fell out of the plane. I went to reach for the strut and I fell out of the airplane. But then again, your training teaches you to count the 1001, 1002, start getting into this habit of doing something every single time, following this system every single time. The joke was, well, what if the chute doesn't open? Quite frankly, the old joke was send it back to the factory. But again, the idea was try and cut away yourself from that chute that's unfurled, didn't work, and open up another chute is what you're trying to do. Okay, cut away that main chute, cut it away so that you can open up the other chute, because now you got a backup system. You have a reserve. Remember, we're following a systematic approach to an end result. Look for drop zones. So start looking immediately for the airport, looking for where you're supposed to land. And they had a big X on the tarmac area, so where we're supposed to land. So you start looking, getting, because again, when you're falling out of an airplane 120 miles an hour for the first time, you start to get a little disoriented about where you are. So start looking for the drop zone is what they teach you. Watch out for obstacles. Like I said, watch out for a lake. If you're going to get into the lake, make sure you get out of your harness before you go into the water and don't get tangled up for it. Look for any other restricted areas that you shouldn't be landing in, swamps, whatever, but start looking for that right place to land. Watch for high lines and towers. So they teach you things like when you're looking down, you lose depth perception. You might sit there and think, oh, that's a wonderful, nice tree down there, but it was a bush that was only 3 foot tall, but you thought it was like 60 feet and you weren't ready to hit the ground yet, and all of a sudden you do. So they teach you things like this. Like even if you get into the high lines, they teach you the problem isn't hitting high lines, it's crossing them and creating a circuit and getting shock. So they teach you to swing one direction so that you swing down in between the high lines so you don't get electrocuted. So remember, we're getting 6 hours of learning a systematic approach to an end result. Obviously, the end result is a safe landing, and nail the landing. At that time, the air these chutes that I were going on, they have it's almost equivalent to jumping off a 12-foot ledge when you hit. So they teach you how to lift one foot and roll, and instead of trying to take the entire energy of the fall all at once, to teach you how to nail the landing is what you kind of do. So what I said to my instructor, I said, wow, with a system this great, 6 hours of training for about a 35-second parachute jump, nobody's ever died here. And he took me over to a part of the ground over there by the runway, and he said, "Oh yeah, we had a girl last week that she died here." And I went, well, "What do you mean she died here?" He said, "She didn't follow the system. What happened was when she fell out of the airplane and pulled her emergency chute, it got twisted and tangled. They found her. She never even pulled the reserve chute." Because remember what the system is at 1,800 feet, no matter what, pull your other chute. That's the systematic approach to follow. She didn't do that. They found her on the ground still trying to undo her main chute. Instead of following the system says, no matter what, look at your altimeter at 1,800 feet, pull your chute. My point is this: skydiving fatalities in the last 10 years, out of 25 million jumps, there's only been 471 deaths, collisions, landings, they didn't pull, malfunctions, other things happened, the reserve, they didn't pack the chute correctly. But in all situations, out of 25 million jumps of following a systematic approach, 471 times somebody didn't follow the system. So I know it's a long ways to go, but I'm telling you, we all have systems. When you got up this morning, you brushed your teeth, you took a shower, you got your cup of coffee, you followed a systematic approach to get yourself out of the house or get yourself ready for the day, and you followed the system. Systems work. People fail to work systems. And when I talk about salespeople and I say, do you have a systematic approach to an end result? It's amazing to me the number of salespeople that don't have a system, but the buyers have a system. So let's explain to you and remind you what the buyer's system is. And I also find out that sometimes when I do this part of the training, I get a lot of people that you immediately put yourself as the buyer and say, I don't do that. Generally, this is what buyers typically do. It's almost like this. The concept is this. At the end of the day, you want to go home. And just like baseball, that's the object of baseball, to go home. But you can't go home without going to first, third, or second, third base in that order. You have to go one, two, three. And so the buyers have a three-step system to try and get as much information from you again. The first base in their system is they play their cards close to the vest. They don't tell you exactly, hey, here's my problem, here's my budget, and if you can fix my problem at a price I can afford, we got a deal. I'm signing the contract today. Because they think they lose leverage if they tell you how bad it hurts. So you'll hear things like, well, we're always listening, getting a better price, not sure if we're going to do anything. I'm not buying anything today. These are all things that buyers do to salespeople first to try and gain a little bit of source of leverage. So the first thing that a lot of salespeople think is the buyers are liars. Well, they're not really liars. It's just they don't provide the full story to you because after all, they think you're coming to play football, not baseball. They think you're coming to crush, to maim, to beat them, to win. When the fact is, really, you as a salesperson just want to go home at the end of the day. But again, the first thing a buyer does is they play their cards close to the vest. They don't tell you everything. The second part of their system, oh, by the way, why? Because they don't think misrepresentation of the salesperson doesn't count because they think the salesman's going to lie to them. So we already got this negative reaction going on here together. Second base, just like in baseball, they steal. They're stealing second base. At second base, they steal information. They want to become an educated consumer. They want to know what you know and they want it for free so that maybe they can go to the next person, other vendor, and beat them up over price or beat them up over features and benefits. So it sounds like this. Hey, we weren't really thinking about doing anything, Matt, but if we did, what would you recommend? I've heard wonderful things. They stroke you to try and get free consulting from you. All right. So let's remember what they did. First base, they're misleading about their true intention. Second base, they're stealing your free consulting and your information. And if you're not familiar, the third base system is this. Now they do the TIO. Now when they commit to nothing, no, this sounds good. I got to think about it. My wife wasn't here. I got to share some information with you. They mislead about what all they're going to do with all this free consulting you gave them at second base. And then they run home and hide. What they do is they start, they run home, they don't return your phone calls, they don't respond to your voicemails, your emails. How many of you have got somebody right now that sounded like it was a really good presentation you made? You got buying signals, everything sounded great. The client prospect said, great, call me in a week, or I'll call you on Monday. And then they didn't return your phone calls, they didn't respond to your emails. They've just gone to voicemail hell or wherever it is, and they're not responding to them. But that is their system. So here's what it looks like. The prospects, they're not bad people. They use a system to defend themselves against being sold. We all like to buy. I mean, I don't like to shop, but I sure like to go to Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop and buy things. I just don't like to be sold. And that's what you're like. They don't want to be sold. They don't want to feel that they've been tricked, manipulated to buy something. So they come across as, playing their cards close to the vest, as I said. They obtain the information they can from you. They commit to nothing and then they disappear. That is their system. Now, the reason we're doing this is so that you need to know you have to have a system to counteract this. And unfortunately, traditional selling systems that most people use aren't really very good because the traditional sales training is benefits and features. And if some of you have ever heard of the phrase dog and pony show, it was actually coined by Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing in the 70s. It's show up and throw up, features and benefits. We've been in business since 1967. We're the latest, greatest, most improved. And you pitch about your product or service. And I'm not saying benefits and features aren't important. They're important to you so you know you have a good company and a good product. But what the client wants to know is, can you fix my problem? But most salespeople pitch first. Let me show you what we have. And then they handle stalls and objections. Well, it's more than I was thinking, not really need to do anything right away. And the salespeople starts going into doing some type of a trial close, like the impending doom close. Oh my God, you got to buy by tomorrow. Monday, the price goes up. Buy one now, get three free. According to Notre Dame University, there's actually 7 closing methods: the impending doom close, the puppy dog close, the you owe me close. There's these closes, and people have become jaded to them and they're used to them. But most salespeople have been taught, don't take no for an answer, push, push, push. The client's going to say no 7 times before they say yes, so just keep going. So, and then you end up chasing the person. So here's what's going on. Think about 2 systems work. The prospect system is they mislead about their true intentions. Now the salesperson, he's pitching benefits and features. They're trying to get information from you. Traditional salesperson is trying to handle stalls and objections. They're committing to nothing. Traditional salesperson is trying to close. They're hiding, you're chasing. This is why most people don't want to go into sales, because this isn't really a reciprocating transaction here. It's not fun to do this. So, why have an effective system? It's a process. It's a systematic series of actions that directed at achieving an end result. And the end result, I'm going to do a spoiler, or I'm going to jump to about 20 slides ahead. The end result is either a yes or a no. All right. But it defines how you get something done by following a system. It's a course of action that will lead to a decision about a sale. Again, whether it's a yes or no. And it provides the order of specific action. That is an effective selling system. It enables you to consistently achieve that desired outcome because you're getting into the habit of following, just like if I destroyed it about jumping out of the airplane. If you follow that, spend 6 hours of training following a systematic approach, now when you're up in the air and you have to think quickly on your feet right away to handle a situation, a problem, all of a sudden your training kicks in because you're following a system that allows you to check off the outcomes without wasting resources, time, energy, or money. So at this point, I always say to people, I don't care what your system is, just get one and make it a new one, because the traditional benefits and features, trying to close, trial closes, trying to push people to a decision doesn't work, because the consumers are so much more educated today than they were before. So the benefits of an effective system, you can maintain control of the process if you use a system that defines specific behaviors and actions. And so here's my system. I'm going to show you quickly my system. I'm going to go into full detail of all the training, but I'm going to show you what I call the steps to success. And I use the analogy and acronym STEPS because they fit into each one of the steps of my system. Size up the situation is the first S. All right. Take them to their problem. Talk again. People do not buy your product or service. They buy solutions to their pain or problem. Where most salespeople are out there pitching benefits and features like, gee, we've been in business since 1965. Well, that is the feature, but why is that a benefit to the customer? Well, sometimes people are assuming, well, since we've been in business since 1965, we've got more experience. The client might think, oh, yeah, but you've been in business for a long time. You don't know anything about new technology. You don't know this. So be careful about benefits and features and when you present them. But take them to their problem, understand the problem, extend that problem into the future is step 3. That's the E. So if you can follow me along here, S, size up the situation. T, take them to their problem. E, extend that pain in the future. P, present a solution and solve their problem. Will help that client discover together that they need your system, your product. This is my step up system that I call it. Now, obviously, there's a lot more detail into each one of these, but I teach people a systematic approach to size up this prospect. What I mean by that is, step number 1 is bonding rapport. Rapport is a French word for come together. And how people buy from people like and trust. By the way, in all the years that I've been training, not one person's ever argued with that people tend to buy from people they like and they trust, and people like and trust people like themselves. And if that is true, how much time do you spend every month sharpening your skill, your axe, if you will, at bonding and rapport? coming together with this person. And I want you to think about it this way. The first step is, how does that person on the other side of the table for me process information? Is this person visual? Do they use visual stimulation? Like, I need to see more. Or are they auditory? Tell me more about this. Or kinesthetic, I need to get in touch with who you are. I get a feel for this. Understand how this person processes information so that you can best present your information in the way that they would best receive it. Establish the ground rules as far as, hey, how would both of you like this meeting to end? What's the purpose of it? And sometimes in the group training, when I've got a bunch of salespeople in the room together, I'll ask for a volunteer. Say, has anybody got a meeting coming up, a scheduled prospecting call in the next 48 hours? And there's always somebody who says, yes, I've got to meet with somebody tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And I'll say, okay, and what are you going there for? I'm going there to sell them. And what do they think you're coming there for? To give them a price. See, many times salespeople don't establish the ground rules about what that first meeting is for, what's the purpose, and how we would both like this meeting to end. So we talk that a lot in my training about establishing the ground rules, managing the expectations, what the client expects out of this first meeting and what you expect out of this first meeting. All right. Because it's true, people buy from people they like and they trust. And you want to build that trusted advisor status right away. And how do you do that? How do you build trust with somebody right away without saying, hey, by the way, just trust me? You build trust with somebody with disarming honesty. And disarming honesty sounds like this. Hey, Mr. Prospect, we're not fit for everybody. It's okay to tell me no if you don't think I can solve your problems at a price you can afford. Early in the process, right after hot enough for you, what about that snow we have, whatever it is, right after the bond rapport, and you've diagnosed what this person is, you have to say it's okay to tell me no. You'll actually see people drop their shoulders and go, oh my gosh, really? Because you show them where the exit ramp is early in the process. But here's a little secret I'm going to remember their system. First base, they mislead about their true intentions. Second base, they want to steal your information. They want to know what you know, and they want it for free. So what happens is we're kind of using their system against them. We know they're going to try and get free consulting from us. But if you say to them, hey, at any time during the next 45 minutes, when you decide there's not a fit, I'm okay with you telling me no. Are you going to be okay telling me no? And you'll see people, damn right I can tell you no. And you say, and are you okay with me telling you no? Now, they've never heard of a salesperson saying that. Go, what do you mean? Well, I mean, if I find there's not a fit, if this is purely a price-driven transaction, you are looking for the low price entry level, that doesn't fit with our basic method of operating in our business. We offer a good product at a good price, but we're not the cheapest. So maybe there's not a fit. What that does is, remember their system. They were going from misleading about their true intentions to try and steal your stuff. Now they think, because you said, I might tell them no, it's okay, that they won't get your stuff. They won't get you free consulting. So they won't say no, but it does change the dynamics of this systematic approach when you give them the right to say no early in the process. They won't say no, but it does change it that they don't think you're trying to push them to get a yes by telling them it's okay to tell me no. So that's part of the first step. Size up the situation. All right. Then take them to their pain. But I want you to understand this. The first problem the client gives you, remember, is the first step in their system. The first problem they bring you is seldom the real problem. It's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. So we want to know what the problem is, but even what's causing the problem. So then the next step in my training I teach you is how to identify what the real problem is, what's causing the problem, and the impact that problem is having on the client. Because people go from well to hurt to sick to critical. And what I mean by that is they might be well and don't need your product or service, but through a line of questioning, you might take them to where now they're feeling a little bad and maybe they need it. But if they're critical and they need your product or service, they'll find the money to solve it if they like and trust you. So that's, again, how do you follow a systematic approach to get to the point where you can really get a true answer from this person about what's the problem, what's causing the problem, and the impact that problem is having on them. Then you can extend that problem in the future. It's a pretty interesting thing is that when we think about reasons people buy, there's 4 reasons people buy anything. 1, to gain pleasure today. That's a good one. Buying a product or service because it's going to be pleasure today. 1, I'm buying a product or service because it's going to give me pleasure in the future. 3rd, I'm buying a product or service to solve a present day problem, an issue, a challenge that I have today. Or I'm buying a product to solve pain in the future, like I'm buying insurance in case something happens in the future. Of those four, the strongest motivator is to solve a present day problem. And the second one is to solve a future present problem. So when you take people to the future and say, hey, let's pretend it's a year from now, describe for me what your life is like, because today you just chose not to do anything to solve this. You're going to live with the status quo. Help me understand what's that. When you take somebody into the future, they will try and explain to you how they hope you can solve their problem so they don't have to live with it today. So take people to the future. Sometimes salespeople, they get happy ears. They hear the client give them one problem and they jump to, oh boy, I've dealt with that a lot. Let me tell you, I can solve that. And they jump to right away premature presentation. So extend that problem into the future, then propose a solution. All right. And I'm going to teach you one little sales trick here. Close before you present. And here's what I mean by that. If you've done a good job in my system, you found out what, you bonded with this person, you told them it's okay to say no, you've gone to the pain, you've extended the pain in the future, you understand what their budgetary restrictions are, and you can solve their problem at a price they can afford, why wouldn't they buy your product or service? The only reason they wouldn't is because you didn't do one of those steps. They didn't bond with you, they didn't tell you the truth or whatever. So a closing technique is this. Hey, let's pretend I can solve your problem. And a price you can afford. I'm just curious what would happen. Always close before you present. Always close before you present. Because if you wait until the end, you're putting too much pressure on your client. So the system that I teach is the bond report, the upfront contract, the paying, the budget decision, fulfillment, then even a post sell. But the idea is before you even present a solution to their problem, let's get a commitment from what they would do with this. And remember, we've done the TIO. We tell them up front, hey, by the way, when we get done, please don't do the TIO. Either it's yes or no. There's not. Worst case scenario is I might have another meeting. So again, let me reverse and then we get into the last few slides here. Size up the situation, take them to their pain, extend the pain in the future, and propose a solution. Remember the steps in case you forget it so that you always know where you're at in the system. But the benefits of an effective system is you'll save money and time by a selling system enables you to qualify or disqualify an opportunity early in the process. Remember earlier when I started this, I said that there's 36 answers to that question. We could be more successful if I could just. Well, number 7 on that list is if I just had more time. I can't give you any more time. We all have the same amount of time. You got 24 hours. I don't have 26. We all have the same amount of time, but I choose not to spend my time chasing somebody that isn't qualified. A system that I teach helps you not waste time with people that don't qualify. All right. You can stay on track if a selling system facilitates developing understanding with the prospect that exactly what will happen and when it will happen. You can focus your energy on your prospect if you apply a system to a selling situation rather than worrying about what's going to happen next, because you know and are used to a systematic approach to what's going to happen next. And you can recognize and duplicate a successful behavior with a selling system that has specific action steps, such as what to do and in what order. This will save you time and your prospect time. Now, I want you to think about the baseball analogy for those of you in the States. So I know I have some other people that are watching me on baseball, but again, most salespeople go first, second, and third base, right? That's the order that you should go. Unfortunately, what most salespeople do, it sounds like this. Oh, what's your problem? Oh, let me tell you, I can fix it. By the way, do you have any money? And are you the decision maker? In my system, we put those things first. Does this person have the money, time, and effort it's going to take to fix your problem? Will they be able to make a decision to spend the money? Before we even get into fulfillment and show them how we're going to show, we need to address those situations in our system. Okay. And a good thing for those of you who are managers, the systems can be replicated. What I mean by that is each prospect can file, you can follow the same system with each one so that you know what techniques work, what don't work, and you know where you're at in the system at all the time. Now, one of the other benefits is pretty simple. Obviously, if you want an effective system, a yes would be a great thing. Everybody can guess that and hope that we get in order. But You can also get a no. If you follow a systematic approach, can I ask you a question? If you're never going to get the order, which day would you like to find that out? Well, most people would agree they'd like to find out today. So a positive result is also a no. So you get a yes, you get a no. Okay. And again, you can help the prospect say no. And I want you to think about no in this way. It's a no for now, but not forever. I'd rather have a no now, close the file, stop chasing the person, and wait for them to call me 6 months when they have money, wait when they call me and they didn't get what they think they could from somebody else. So again, the benefits of getting a no is you can learn a lesson from maybe what you did wrong, what derailed and what caused the problem. But a no you need to think of is a positive thing. And at the end, I'm going to give you the opportunity. All of you can get a copy of my book. In my book, I talk about lessons and messages from childhood. We thought that no was a bad thing because we had mama say to us, no, 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 no. You know, the average 3-year-old hears no over 100 times a day because it's not just no, Johnny, don't have a cookie. No, Johnny, get off the table. It's no, no, no. As we have been conditioned, that no is a bad thing. A no is a good thing because you can move on from it, you know. So that's what we want to think about the positive results of a no. Third thing is, hey, maybe we'll get a referral. Even if the person says, no, there's not a fit. They liked how I did the system. They liked how it wasn't so much pressure. Maybe they'll refer me to somebody else. All right. And the worst thing you want out of every sale, I can guarantee everybody that's watching me today, your sales will go up if you'll commit to this. That out of every sales opportunity, that you either get a yes, a no, or a clearly defined next step. So one of the things we teach the people is this: the hey, Mr. Prospect, when we get done, be great if it's a yes. Typically in my business, it's not a first call close, but it could be. But even if it's not a yes, it could be a no. At any time during the next 45 minutes, you decide there's not a fit. I'm okay with you telling me no. Are you going to be comfortable telling me no? And the person says, well, what else? You know, if it's not a yes or no, well, if it's not a yes or no, please don't do the TIO because I'm going to look at it, think it over as a polite or a slow no. Would the worst case scenario be if you can't say yes or no today, that the worst thing we do is schedule another meeting? Out of every sales opportunity, if you get a yes, a no, or a clearly defined next step, your sales will go up. And a clearly defined next step isn't call me sometime in June, I'll call you next week. A clearly defined next step is, hey, let's talk Monday morning at 10 o'clock. At Monday morning at 10 o'clock, I'll answer additional questions you thought of over the weekend. And at that time, we'll decide whether it makes sense to go forward or not. A clearly defined next step means we know what we're both going to do next. And it might even sound like, hey, Mike, let's have a meeting next Monday at 10 o'clock, go forward at that time, or we won't. Any reason when I call you at 10 o'clock on Monday, you won't answer the phone? Um, you have a right to hold people accountable to that type of behavior. We're not, again, asking them to marry us today. We're asking that at least they give us a commitment as to when we're going to get an answer and we move. Now, a lot of this goes deeper into some of my training, but I wanted you to at least see the system, size up the situation, take them to their pain, extend the pain in the future, propose a solution. Follow a systematic approach each time to get either a yes, a no, or a clearly defined next step. All right, last slide. As I said, if you say yes, boy, I like what I've heard. I'd like to learn more. I'd like to be better at it. Email me, Wayne at 3dsalestraining.com. I'll follow up with you. I'll send you my link to my calendar. We can schedule some time to have a phone conversation. Remember, anytime you can still say no, there's not a fit. If you say no, this isn't for you, just make sure you exit, you get out of my Facebook group so you don't get any emails, you don't get bothered. If you even email me at 3D training, that's my no site, 3D training LLC at Gmail. I'll remove you from any list that I have. But please don't feel like you have to say, I want to think it over. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you say, Wayne, I just wasted 45 minutes of my life. I'll never get back. I don't believe in anything you say. I don't like your training system. I've got one better. And again, I hope you do. Again, as I said a while ago, I don't care what your system is. Just get one. And most people don't have a systematic approach to selling. All right. So that's my systematic approach. I will stay here and answer questions. Those of you who want to undo your microphone, those of you watching online or later on my Facebook page or on the YouTube channel, email your questions if you will. If you just go to 3dsalestraining.com, 3dsalestraining.com, if you fill out the contact page at that website, you will get a free copy of my book, Messages from Childhood That Hold Us Back. So I'll send that to everybody. Again, 3dsalestraining.com. You'll get a copy of my book for free. It's the e-version. You can send it on to other people. My book wasn't written necessarily for a profit margin for me. It was to help some of my clients at least have something to refer back to help keep them in the right sales content all the time. So if you want to unmute yourself, make any comments. Anybody got anything? Mike, you usually have something. Anything from you?
Yeah, I was going to let others go first, but I mentioned a few days ago that we've kind of opened up the thought of what could we do to improve our company in both sales and marketing, and 3D sales is one of the things that we're just starting to ponder.
Okay. Is that in your background? Is that your company behind you there?
Yeah, that's world headquarters in
Okay.
Sudbury, Wisconsin.
Okay.
My partner in crime, Emily, is on the call too. So
Oh, hi, Emily. Welcome. That's Emily Larson. Gotcha. Appreciate it. Okay.
Hi, Wayne.
Go ahead, Matt. Somebody started to say something. I interrupted you.
I was just saying hello.
Oh, hell. Oh, gotcha. Have you been through any type of Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins training at all, or anybody? No. Here's what's different about my system than all those. They're all good. I've been through the Disney Institute training. I've been through Dale Carnegie, obviously Sandler. I've been through a bunch of them. They're all good. What some of them do, though, is they are really so much regimented. They sit there and say, a Sandler trainer with turnover is great if you gave a presentation without finding the client's budget. In my system, I understand that sometimes the clients don't know what their budget is. They don't know what they can spend. They won't commit to a money with you. And so, some people have said, well, if they won't tell you what their budget is, then next, move on. Sometimes it takes a while to build that trust with somebody. So my system is we spend so much time in the bond and rapport, because if you've bonded with that person, if you've developed who this person is, you understand their disc profile, you understand visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, you understand transactional analysis, you understand all these elements of bonding with somebody, you'll find that people that bond with you don't lie to you. People that bond with you will share with you their budget. People that bond with you will give you so much information. So what's different about my system is we generate a lot of time and effort to that relationship building. And I know a lot of you say that yes, my sale is relationship. People buy because they like me. But again, I don't think people spend enough time understanding how that person processes information, how that person behaves, how that prospect operates. We don't spend enough time sizing up the situation. That's why I've emphasized it in what I've created, the content that I've created, to size up that situation before you go any further. I have one person, Lynn is her name. She's so good at my system, she actually will spend an hour to 2 hours with people. First, she'll even say, hey, this meeting is all about bond and rapport. We're not even going to get into anything else like this. Because if you don't like me, it doesn't matter what my product is or what I charge. And so she's really convinced that. So that's what I do. I spend a lot of time teaching my clients on those methods to understand who this person is and why they will make a decision to work with you. Okay, anybody else? No questions and comments? All right, so if we do meet, here's what I'm going to ask you. Again, you could be more successful in your business if you could just, and then over the last year, how much has that problem cost you? And then, yes, you'd like to have a further conversation, or no, you wouldn't. That's all I'm asking from you. Okay. The other thing besides getting my book, there are some of my 1-minute managers at my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/at 3D sales training. There's some 1-minute sales tips. There's some free things in there. Every week I have a sales class on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. my clients join that, and if for some reason you can't join that class, you don't get, it's not like algebra, you will lose and you fall a week behind. I record all of those, and those are posted in a private section of my YouTube channel. So I have 180 videos already for people who join my program if they want to get into it. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I'll wait for you guys to contact me as to what the next step would be, and we'll move forward from there. Appreciate you. Thanks, everybody.
See you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Thanks.